Welcome to Section 5, which covers the 3-paragraph paper. This section has 6 parts. This part gives you an overview of the 3-paragraph paper. In the last section, you went in depth into the construction of the short paragraph. In doing this, you should now have mastery over this fundamental building block of writing. The exercises you went through should have given you a clear understanding of the roles played by the introduction, body, and conclusion, and the role played by logical flow within a paragraph. As these elements relate to communication, you learned how the first 3 are used to orient and reason with the reader, and you learned how the last one is used to guide the reader through the body of reasoning. As these elements relate to problem solving, you learned how the introduction is the staging ground for solving your overall problem. You learned how to work through the problem step by step in the body. To work through the problem, you used implied questions to direct each step, and you came up with explicit answers, which are your solutions to each step. Finally, you learned how to summarize your overall solution and to close your investigation using the conclusion. All of these communicative and investigative aspects were present in every paragraph you wrote. Now you are ready for the next level of composition. In this section, you will take the knowledge you built in the last 2 sections and apply that knowledge to a multi-paragraph essay. This type of essay will allow you to overcome the limitations of the single paragraph. In the single paragraph, the introduction and conclusion sentences transition the reader into and out of one paragraph of reasoning, and the body sentences logically present the main argument. But when you need to make a complex argument or solve a complex problem, you will need to write multiple paragraphs. In this case, a single sentence is useful to introduce each paragraph, but it is insufficient to orient the reader to the overall topic. It begins and ends too suddenly. That is why you need to dedicate at least 1 paragraph to transition the reader into a multi-paragraph manuscript. The second problem with the single paragraph is that the body is too short. There is no room to build a detailed argument or work through a complex problem, and so it limits you to summarizing your argument. You have to make several points in a complex argument, and to prove these points you need to present the argument in detail, which will require multiple paragraphs. The third problem is that a single concluding sentence has similar shortcomings to the single introductory sentence. It is too short, and so it ends the argument abruptly. When making a complicated argument, this is nearly as disorienting as throwing a reader into the middle of your argument without properly setting the stage in the introduction. To give the reader proper closure, which ensures the reader gets your point, you must write at least 1 conclusion paragraph. With these things in mind, your goal for this section is to learn the roles of the introduction, body, conclusion, and logical flow in an essay with multiple paragraphs. The simplest form of essay with multiple paragraphs that illustrates all of these functions is an essay containing 3 paragraphs. This size allows for an introduction paragraph, a body paragraph, and a conclusion paragraph, and it provides 2 opportunities to make logical transitions between paragraphs. It is just small enough to allow you to reinforce the basics learned in the last chapter, and just large enough to expand the scope of your writing beyond the single paragraph.